Since March 2020, majority of public K-12 schools and universities have switched to distance learning because of the coronavirus. Of course, with this form of learning, we'd all expect this to have a negative effect on education. An article written by Chalkbeat, which is a non-profit news organization, found in a survey that only about 60% of students were regularly participating or engaging in distance learning. Three-quarters of teachers said their students were less engaged during their remote instruction than before the pandemic, and that engagement declined even further over the course of the semester. This is why I propose that public schools and universities shall return to on-campus instruction. Now I'm going to define my key terms. I define public schools as schools that are funded by the public through taxes. The schools I will be referring to are K-12, meaning elementary, middle school, or junior and high school. I identify public colleges and universities as state colleges such as CSUs and UCs. Finally, I define on-campus instruction as students and faculty being present at their learning facilities, having a face-to-face interaction inside a classroom. My first main point is that distance learning can have a negative impact on our black and brown students, which they tend to fall behind in school. According to McKinsey and Company, black students may fall behind by 10.3 months, Hispanic students by 9.2 months, and low-income students by more than a year. We estimate that this would increase the achievement gaps by 15 to 20%. In the wake of school closures following natural disasters such as Hurricane Katrina in 2005 and Hurricane Maria in 2017, 14 to 20% of students never returned to school. We estimate that an additional 2 to 9% of high school students could drop out as a result of the coronavirus and associated school closures. My third reasoning of why we should go back to on-campus instruction is that distance learning adds more stress to students than regular schooling. In California, students have reported being much more stressed working from home than having to go to school. 17-year-old Madison Cordell said to the New York Times, "I feel as if I can't take a break or turn off school. I'm up at 7 a.m. doing some form of school or studying until 7 p.m. I can't even take my flashcards down while I make lunch." Many of you, just like me, are partaking in distance learning, and every day I end up waking up at 8 or 10 o'clock and having to continue to do school in the middle of the night until 7 p.m. So that's why. So just because of this distance learning, stress has to be taken care of by returning to public schools, which now I'm going to explain the benefits of reopening our public schools. Reopening schools will allow students to have face-to-face interaction with instructions and fellow students. According to Suffolk University, many students find it best for them to attend school face-to-face because they are visual learners. Given the option to participate in a classroom setting, it decreases the chances of being distracted at home. This is very true. Me personally, I get easily distracted by everything around me, whereas in school, I don't have as much as distractions such as long as the other students aren't making a distraction. So having a face-to-face instruction will make learning easier. My second point is that public schools give access to students who need food. The Food and Research and Action Center includes that school lunch is critical to student health and well-being, especially for low-income students, and ensures that students have nutrition they need throughout the day to learn. My third point is that In the importance of parents and interaction, it states social instructions for young students usually happen within the family, but as students grow and develop, they want to play with other children. And as schools provide access to clinics, therapists, and counselors. This goes back to the point where I mentioned about stress. School could be stressful and hard to take for a student, and distance learning has not made that easy. Where public schools used to offer things like a therapist and things of that nature. And now with distance learning, students aren't able to get the resources they need